How's that look?
It looks fine. Hello.
It's okay. Hello.
And welcome to Benny's Alternate Universe. And
Now,
Chloe.
we did not plan that. I didn't know you were going to do
Well,
that.
I just thought it'd be cute.
It was cute.
Yeah.
Enough. And I am Benny, as always, your host here on Benny's Alternate Universe. We are knee-deep in the midst of PROG DAZE, and we have just wrapped up an attempted review of King Crimson's masterful and wonderful Larks Tongues in Aspic from 1973.
We had too much to say, so this is take two.
Yeah, it was a little extensive.
It was like 35 minutes long.
Yeah. And much like King Crimson and Robert Fripp, we take great pride in the construction and execution of our program. So
Perfect content only.
Exactly. So we've decided to take another crack at it. Now, Chloe, I know that King Crimson is a new thing for you.
Yeah.
And what did you think when you listened to Larks Tongues in Aspic?
To put it concisely.
As concise as possible, please.
I really appreciate the way...
Appreciate or appreciate?
No, it's an E.
Okay.
So appreciate. The way it was composed as if it were like a Baroque classical composition piece with movements, and the whole album plays like a piece that you'd go to a theater long ago and sit down. There's like a perfect intermission between the A side and the B side.
Yep.
And it's just like, it's a really beautiful piece that's engaging and that is interesting and well paced and dynamic and
but
beautiful.
at the same time, within the first 5 minutes, you're getting bashed over the head with some of the heaviest
oh yeah,
riffs
it's also
you're going to hear
extremely heavy, extremely
at
jazzy.
any time. Yeah,
Totally unlike any other band I've ever listened to.
Would you say it's exotic? I find it to be really exotic.
There's a lot of percussion that reminds me of like African or like Polynesian percussion.
Yep.
Even though I know that's not like cited as an influence for them.
That's not necessarily true. I think African percussion is an influence for King Crimson in a big way.
You can definitely hear a lot of that. You know, it's bouncy in a lot of places and bright, and then it gets real dark and spooky.
Very, very dynamic record.
Totally.
One of the reasons I love King Crimson so much, and I think they're definitely one of my favorite prog bands, and they're in my holy trinity of prog: Rush,
yes,
King Crimson, and yes, right. They is that they seem to have a real mastery of the kind of auxiliary styles that you hear in prog a lot, because you're always, all prog bands, especially a lot of ELP, you're going to hear classical influence, and the keyboards and synths and whatnot were a big part of prog for some bands, for most of them actually, but Crimson seems to come at it not so much as a rock band that is trying to add these interesting and unusual influences, as, like you said, as a classical musician or a composer who is trying to create a melding of all these different things. And like, for example, when you hear the riff in the first song, Larks Tongues in Aspic, Part 1, and you hear that very heavy guitar riff, dun, 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 it's like they not only come at you with a rock riff, they come at you with a rock riff supreme.
Oh yeah.
Everything they do exceptionally well. And when the violin comes in, it's not a violin on top of whatever's going on. It's a almost heart-wrenching violin solo that really draws you in and is very emotional.
All the instruments are played in the style they should be played in, and utilized to get the best sound out of them and the best expression out of them. I feel like
it's evocative.
There's amazing, deep, meaty bass in there.
Do you feel that this record...
Every time I say an instrument, I do the hands.
Do you feel like this record, and maybe before I ask this question, I should just make note, This is the 5th King Crimson album, and it's the 5th King Crimson lineup.
I loved that.
And, yeah, I think that's significant. Fripp is definitely the mastermind of this group. And this particular lineup features a lot of violin, as always, a lot of mellotron, and an auxiliary percussionist, Muir, I believe was his last name. I forgot his first name.
Is any relation to David?
I don't know if a David
The
Muir.
newscaster.
Oh, he's a newscaster?
You know, the handsome one.
I don't watch handsome
Very
newscasts.
handsome, I'll tell you.
News is not really my cup of tea.
But great percussion.
He plays auxiliary percussion along with the drummer Bill Bruford, who was formerly of Yes, so it's definitely master drummer. And I love whenever there's two drummers. You know, of course, and some people watch the show know too of my experiences seeing the Melvins when they had two drummers and how that had a huge effect on me because it was just so amazing. And this percussion player uses a wide variety of unusual sounds and unusual percussion instruments, like we talked about chains,
The musical
thumb
saw.
piano, musical saw,
My favorite.
sheet metal,
Toys. And trays.
So there's a really wide array of percussion sounds, and all of them I think are cool. And at certain parts, I am pretty sure within Easy Money, definitely within Talking Drum, definitely within Larks Tongue Part 1, there are duets of percussion, or almost like or drum and percussion duels, or just sort of cutting contests, and it's really incredible. There's some great rhythms that go on and some really unique sounds that I don't really... Between the compositions and the palette of sounds, I can't think of another record that really sounds similar to Larks Tongue, even within the King Crimson catalog.
Also, I think something that was really nice is that all the like strange percussion, like all the instruments that aren't typically used in like rock music, were like really well timed and well placed, and weren't really like used to be weird.
Yeah.
Like all the instruments, they were used because they were the best sound to make that music, which is another reason it feels so composed by a composer and not like written casually.
Not like, okay, well, here's what I'm going to do on this part.
This isn't like a jam session that turned into an album.
Yeah, this is definitely something that was thought out, planned out, and expertly executed.
And that's what separates it for me. Like, there's a lot of noise, and there's a lot of like sludge, and there's a lot of really rock elements.
Yeah.
But it's separate from how a rock band would write a rock song on every track.
Would you, as somebody who's never really listened to King Crimson and is just getting into King Crimson, did you consider this to be a rock record?
No, I don't see a particular genre for this record.
I think overall it's very hard to put your finger on what kind of music this is. I mean, it's prog, sure, but from track to track and as an overall effect, because a lot of times there's these different shades and these different movements within one track.
Yeah, like your gut reaction is classical.
Yeah,
and then
a lot
you
of
hear
classical.
the crazy riff and like the midpoint of the first song, or maybe a little before then, and you're like, oh, well, that's like sludgy rock, you know. But then there's like jazz parts that are really jazzy, and there's like groovy, funky parts, and there's like and more
there's
you
Book
listen,
of Saturdays,
which
I don't even know. I
The
guess
harder,
you'd say it's jazzy.
Sort of.
It's very mellow.
Yeah.
Very mellow.
It's like the harder you listen to it, the harder it is to put a label on it. It just is what it is, and that's my favorite thing about this album. I think.
Definitely true. It's on Talking Drum. You hear a lot of that kind of funky African type rhythm that you were talking about, and you're gonna hear on. Sorry, I can't see it too good. Exiles, almost noise rock, like proto noise rock, and there's a lot of feedback and like these drones that are just so menacing and so great. You know, it's just really remarkable.
There are really sick guitar sounds on this whole album. Especially, I feel like in the opening track, it really got my eye, that sound almost like animal sounds, or like nature sounds that are
And the
guitar.
way I don't think we talked about in this particular take the way the album starts with the
Wind chimes
that go on for quite a while,
Yeah.
and you sort of start to wonder like what's the deal with this album.
Yeah.
And then when it does finally kick in, it's not a moment too soon or too late. It's at the exact right time when you're starting to think, what's going on here? And then something else goes on.
Yeah. That's really cool.
Really awesome. And there's a few funky parts. Talking Drum is funky, and I think Easy Money was pretty funky too. And I think there was moments in Exiles that were funky. And speaking of great guitar sounds, Exiles has an absolutely wonderful guitar solo. The tone is hard for me to put my finger on. There's fuzziness to it. I think there may be some fuzz involved, but there's also something so uniquely Fripp, and it may have some Frippertronics applied to it. I wonder if I can move my face out of the shadow, if it will just become more shadowy
It's hard to say.
wherever I move. Here, where I've decided to be my main position, is definitely the deepest shadow. So my face is going to be obscured.
How's that?
Oh no, you're fine.
Because I'm in your light a
Well,
little.
you're now blocking. Well, it doesn't matter.
Okay.
Just-
Well, 'cause that's really
I
uncomfortable.
mean, it's a talk show.
Known for their bad lighting.
Yeah, well, this is not the worst lighting we've ever had, that's for sure. What did we say we were going to do? 15 on this one?
We're at 11:36.
We erased take one, but I gotta say, it was hilarious.
Oh, it was so good.
I mean, we were cutting them up. And then we had a good bit just now before we started recording, talking about, well, we were talking about the way that
We
the
both
album
just-
is structured with two sides.
Yeah.
And how, of course, there's the opener to the entire album, but then the closer to side one is almost the closer in itself, and the opener to side two, Easy Money, is almost an opener in itself. And then we started talking about how a lot of times with the physical media, we'll only listen to one side.
And then you take a break,
In
and you
a
like go get your
go.
coffee, or you're like
Yeah, or whatever. And then, you
Whatever.
might put on another side from another record and
put on a sweater.
put on. But I was saying, wouldn't it be great if there was some kind of device where you could just have all your music at the tip of your hot little hand, and it was even smaller than one cassette. That would just be marvelous, and then you could have the just songs flying at you. 24 hours a day, like some kind of rogue maniac birds or COVID bats, just flying at your face, and you could look at it and say, "Oh, the COVID bats. That was a good song. I'll look them up later." I'm good. COVID bats.
Nobody steal
Love
it.
Love it. TM. But and you can make a list of all the bands you're gonna check out. I'm gonna check them out. Nobody's bought a COVID Bats record yet. No, it's a thing of the past here in Benny's alternate. The long playing experience and the deep listening experience. That's another thing like we got into just now, which I think can not always apply to every record, because some of them wear out their welcome really quick, but a lot of records do reward you for listening deeply, listening long, and Crimson is a group in general that makes records that are worth listening to and listening to intently. Yeah. Because there's things in there that you're going to pick up on. And also with these long form songs like Larks Tongue, which is 13 and a half minutes in part 1 and another 7 minutes in part 2.
And actually all of the songs on side 2, there are 3 songs on each side. All of the songs in side 2 are longer than 7 minutes. You got Easy Money is 7:51, Talking Drum is 7:28, and then Larks Tongue's part 2 is 7:10.
Yep. So as you listen to these over and over again, you start to know the order of the parts, and you start to look forward to, like, just from the 3 or 4 times we listened to it just now, in part 1, I definitely look forward to the violin solo and the way it comes back from the violin solo, the guitar solo on the end of Exiles, and the long instrumental, kind of what I would describe as a cutting session.
You know, the more we talk about it,
yeah,
you like the first thing you notice isn't always the guitar because there's
15.
a lot going on. Okay, we gotta hurry it up. But I just have one observation, which is that on your first listen, maybe even your second listen, you're not really hearing the guitar more than anything else because there's a lot of violin. There's a lot of focus on all these other pieces that aren't the guitar. But when you sit down and think about, like, oh, well, what was the best part of this track? And what was the best part of this track? The guitar is phenomenal throughout.
The guitar is always phenomenal. But, I mean, you could say that about the drums, too.
Oh, yeah.
The drums are pretty extraordinary.
Let's just, like...
Everybody is just such a great player.
Let's just take a minute for the drummers of the world.
Let's... A moment of silence?
Just a moment of appreciation. They don't get enough of it, I feel like.
Okay.
They do in rock circles more than anywhere else.
When are we doing it? Right now?
Right now.
Okay.
Let's just, have a riff on drummers.
Oh, not a moment of silence.
Whatever. I just mean, find your local drummer and thank him today.
We love the drummers, and our good friend Phil DeMarco, the drummer of Reality Bomb, is a fan of the show, and he watches the show. So, Phil, we salute you, and we salute all the drummers out there. We also salute Joe Pugh.
That's what I was going to say.
From Reality Bomb, who was kind enough to give me this and all the prog tapes that you're going to be hearing about during PROG DAZE QUADRILOGY. This one happens to be my favorite, but there were a lot of great ones from Yes and just a really wonderful selection. I had this as a kid. I did not have it on tape, full disclosure. This is very hard to find on tape, really? Too. Yeah. I had it on CD at some point, and so I know this album's really great. I want to get into the ducks before we cross the 20-minute line.
One more thing we have to discuss.
Yeah.
Real quick is the
candy.
art. Oh, the candy, no.
You show them the art, I'll get the candy.
We do have a contest, which is to drop a link to your favorite... Are we still doing that? Of course.
We don't have the lead up, though.
Okay, well then forget it.
Next time we'll do it.
We're doing a giveaway next week.
Maybe.
This is the cover, and it's hot. And
I
like it. And it's, I love it. It captures the essence of the album really well.
We should see. The first time we had a great bit that went with it.
Yeah, we're at 1725.
Talking about how it would make a great tattoo, and then I was saying the prog heads are gonna be up your ass all the time, so you better know your crimson if you're gonna get that tattoo. Oh man, we had fun. We always have fun.
That's true.
When we're doing anything, we like to spend time together. Work on our little silly projects. I want to say hi to our sponsors too before we get into the ducks. Have one.
Well, yeah, but you just the bag was over here, guys, and they picked it up, in the motion. I was like I just caught it again.
Yeah, we're on a sour gummy tip right now.
Yeah, I like that they always come in these poisonous yellow bags. Mm-hmm. If we were wild animals, this is poison. Do not touch.
Yeah, definitely warning.
This is like a dart frog of candy.
Sour Patch. Watermelons, which are awesome.
Best candy ever.
And Starburst gummies, which are good.
Which are not Starburst, in any way.
They're Starburst in name only. I still think that their flavor is a little long-lasting for my taste.
Why is that negative?
Because sometimes the flavor goes on too long. It's no different than a movement on a King Crimson record. If it's not perfectly timed.
What was the line the other day that you were like, I love it, but I hate the taste, that you were talking about how it's
Foo
stupid.
Fighters.
Yeah, that's what...
Or I never said I love it.
Alright, let's get to the ducks.
I hate it, but I love the taste. I think it would be more appropriate in this case. No, I like them. I just think the flavor is a little long-lasting, and I'm not gonna... I'm gonna persist in that. Okay. So I got my daughter here with me.
Oh yeah, we didn't even mention that.
My daughter Chloe, and I'm very happy to have her here with me.
Some of the world's saddest circumstances, but COVID brings families together.
She's a COVID refugee.
I'm from New York.
That's what you are. You're a COVID refugee right now.
I live in New York. Mm-hmm. I had to run away before shit got too crazy. So can I swear? Yeah,
it's mine. It's our show. We can do whatever we want. Yeah, she's a COVID exile right now. She's not infected, as you can see. But But because she's here and because everybody knows we have our world famous duck rating, we're about to pass 20 minutes now.
It's okay.
She has her own ducks over here, which are little cute ducks because she's cute. And we're gonna go head to head and see how we feel about this. Now we're running out of battery, so we're really kind of SOL.
All right, we got it.
Here we go, baby. Number 1, fun.
No. We shouldn't have done that one first.
Just out of hand. Just out of hand. It's not really fun. It's not the word.
Great. And
Fun
it's
is not the
intellectually
word. But
stimulating.
It's more akin to this intellectual masterpiece duck.
Totally. Very
Because
intelligent.
Fripp is a very smart guy, and everybody who plays in King Crimson is very, very highly functioning. Musically.
Unlike us.
Yeah, right. This one is cool, the Attitude Duck.
I thought it had attitude because
Crimson's
I
got
thought
attitude.
that it didn't care what anyone else thought, and that's what attitude is. And
Right.
it's like
Yeah.
it's a little intellectual.
Sure,
and I
yeah.
think usually those two things aren't associated, but I think it definitely didn't give a fuck, just did what it wanted, and
Definitely, you just want to get out there and YOLO.
crushed it because of that, and did extremely well on the charts in the UK, where they're from, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah,
So,
all great prog bands are British.
so that was great. So they did
Yeah.
great, and they had a lot of attitude and a lot of chutzpah.
Very surprising how good did in terms of chart position. And a lot of these prog bands, I think that's true for. I'm always amazed that prog had as many fans as it did because it's very challenging.
Yeah.
Kind of music, you have to dedicate some time and attention to absorb it.
Thinking about the fact that it debuted 20 on the UK charts and 61 on the US charts just makes me think a lot about our, our attention span and our interest in...
73, was disco going on in 73?
I don't think so.
Too soon. It was like meathead rock, the kind of stuff I like. Okay. Is it unique?
Oh, yeah.
I mean, some of these you just show the duck, and of course it's like anybody who's heard of King Crimson knows they're unique.
Come on. I like that I use my orange duck because, fun fact, that's the least common favorite color.
I did not know that.
Well, now you know.
Doesn't surprise me. It's an ugly ass color.
Oh, rude. I love it. It's not my favorite, though. Can't commit to that.
I just I don't want to get too political on the show. I'm not crazy about the color orange at the moment. This is a funky duck, as you can see, and I think this record's damn funky.
This record funked hard.
It funked out at times.
And, that's
But
what
again-
it is. It's like if you had a jazziness duck, it would get that too. It
Yeah.
hits all your bases.
If we had a Baroque duck,
Yeah, come on.
which I wish we did.
We'll get
Battery's
one.
getting low. Battery's down to 5%. Squeaky clean production duck.
We already
Which
got
is just
into it about
production
this,
in
but
general.
great,
Yeah. Great production.
Great.
Awesome sounds.
Stand out.
Awesome collection of sounds.
One of a kind.
Bunch of sounds we never heard before and that were all pleasing and really cool and squeaky clean. And this is the classics duck, but we could also describe it as a memorable. Is this a memorable album?
Why don't we give this guy a little double meaning, and he can represent how classic it is as an album, and how classical it is as an album.
Wow,
Whoa!
very good.
So
Very good.
definitely
Very good, because
gets
it's
that
classic
one.
and it is very
you meet
classical.
a lot of Crimson fans. I work in a
And it's classy.
yeah. I work in a used record store. I get Crimson fans all the time buying Crimson records,
Yep.
and some of them are like my age and younger.
Yeah, young people.
Yeah.
The Crimson lives on forever because
Totally.
they were so unique and because they were such great musicians, which brings me on to number 3, musicianship.
Yep.
Which they're
Fantastic
obviously going to get
musicians, extremely
top-notch,
talented.
world-class musicians, always in King Crimson, and always an interesting cast of different world-class musicians. Heaviness is a guarantee.
Yeah.
Gotta have heaviness on your classic King Crimson records.
Seriously.
And the riff in Larks' Tongues in Aspic
Oh my god.
has got to be one of the best
You
of
gotta hear it.
1973.
And the ending gets really heavy too, which is Lark's Tongues and Aspic Part 2.
Yep.
So
Yep.
it's just
Almost
a beautiful...
ups the ante a little bit of heaviness. And I'm pretty sure that this was the same year that Black Sabbath Volume 4 came out, and I still think Larks Tongues has some of the best riffs of the year.
High praise.
Mm-hmm. I'd put it up against Snowblind or any of the great Tomorrow's Dream, just in terms of the power and majesty of that one riff. And Lark's Tongue Part 1, I think, is one of the great riffs of the year for sure. Finally, the album cover, Duck.
Oh, yeah.
Awesome album cover.
Beautiful.
Love
Stunning.
it.
Gorgeous.
Can we get one more look at it? Where did it go? I think you had it last.
I do have it, and it's right here.
Cryptic. A little ancient.
It's like a tarot card.
It's like a tarot card, you're right. And it's probably from a tarot card.
And who doesn't love that?
But, as always...
And the duality. I love a meaning. And they have so much duality.
They really do, yeah.
And look at this.
The light and shade.
That's what I mean. It's a really great cover for this album.
That's cool. I didn't even really look at it that way.
And artistically.
Yep.
I wonder who did this art.
Great question. I don't know if there's...
Well, drop it in the comments.
And this one was remastered by Fripp in 1989. I didn't know that either, so we're learning. So I gave Larks, Tongues, and Aspic 9 ducks.
See, I also gave it 9 ducks.
Mm-hmm. The only duck that it did not win was the Fun Award. And I'd just like to put an asterisk next to that and say that I do really enjoy listening to this album. It just doesn't have that bouncy
It's not traditionally fun,
yeah.
you know? It's intellectually stimulating, and you'll get a kick out of it. Make a painting, whatever.
Enjoyable, it's entertaining,
yeah.
It's educational.
It's a great album. It's just not really the most fun. But I am going to give it a half duck.
Don't rip the duck.
It's not. It just
okay.
pushed it in. Because I just thought it was fantastic.
You gave it an extra half a duck.
I don't want to give it 10 because it didn't meet the qualifications, but I want to give it 9 because I really enjoyed it and thought it was fantastic. And
before we wrap up the interview at a lean or the review rather, at a lean and mean 28 minutes here on Benny's Alternate Universe PROG DAZE Quadrilogy. I just want to let everybody know we are going to be digging into the Yes in the next episode, and we're finally going to dig into the Genesis. And we're going to maybe do many, many more reviews because we are COVIDites.
Yep, so we're here.
Hang in the basement, call people about jobs, and review tapes. But I just want to give a special bonus duck to Larks, Tongues, and Aspic. And this is the Mega Unicorn Duck. Now you'll see, this is a normal sized duck.
And this is a mini duck.
And that's a mini duck.
We got the whole duck family. Hey!
That's Blanket.
That's our cat.
AKA Stud Tail.
Let's not even go there.
But this is a magic duck that only 1 in a million tapes gets.
Have you used it before?
Oh yeah, of course.
So wrong.
well, no, I have good tapes.
There you go. That's true.
Out of my tapes, it might be 1 in every 40. But we're going to give that to Larks, Tongues, and Aspic too. Hope everybody had a great time during this period of time here in Benny's Alternate Universe PROG DAZE Quadrilogy.
Make sure you give that album a listen. It's great, and you have nothing to do, so just feel it out.
True.
Take a,
Larks, Tongues, and Aspic.
Listen to it in the bath.
Thanks so much to my daughter Chloe for being my co-host and for being my daughter.
Thanks for having me.
I appreciate that too.
Well, then thanks for having me, and thanks for having me.
Love it. Okay, Benny's Alternate Universe will be back with PROG DAZE Part 3, the Yes Saga. Bye-bye.